Welcome back to another Best Bets episode. Didn't have much for tonight. The only bet for those of you on the Discord, we had Nimari Burnett 3-point ladder. Nebraska they're susceptible to giving up threes, open threes, and so we're all over Nimari Burnett. I think we had him over 3+, 4+, 5+.
Yeah.
So yeah. So hopefully he can cash for some of you that saw it on the Discord. Keep joining the Discord. We had another big week this past week, up 4.5-ish units, now up over 38 units on the year. So make sure you're in on that Discord. We've done very well on player props, and the Discord is the only place that you're going to see those player props because, as we've said in past episodes, they don't come out soon enough for us to talk about them on the episode. So we're going to post them just a few hours before tip-off. But we do have a few bets we want to discuss with you for Tuesday, Wednesday this week. We'll jump right into it. First one, tomorrow night, Illinois against Iowa. Illinois, after losing to Duke by 40 on Saturday at Madison Square Garden, coming back minus 10.5 here against Iowa. This line had projected yesterday around 14. Opened, I believe you said, at 11.5, and now it's pushed down to 10.5, but we still like this number.
Yeah, I mean, the movement doesn't really make a ton of sense for me. And I mean, this has to be the bottom of the market for Illinois. I mean, I feel like I've thought that for the last month now. It's just a lot of things have gone wrong for this Illinois team, whether it's the sickness and injuries, like Moroz Johnson's still going to be out for this game, but it feels like half their team's been sick for the last 3 to 4 weeks now, like Ivicic dealing with mono, and then he ended up getting some other sickness for the last week or two, lost like 13 or 14 pounds over the last couple of weeks. So I think just a lot of things have gone very wrong for this Illinois team. As also just they haven't made a three in what feels like forever, and saw a stat that every single player on their roster that has come back from the previous year has shot a lower percentage from three than they did the year before. So like Boswell's shooting 26% from three this year. He shot 39% at Arizona last year. Ben Hammerkaus was a 40% 3-point shooter at Evansville, and now he's shooting like 33%. And it goes down the line. Just nobody's shooting at their expectation or anywhere close to it. I think part of that is because of the way the type of shots that they're getting. I think a lot of their shots are pretty low quality threes. It's a lot of off the dribble, a lot of contested threes. But I think either way, I think this team's shooting well below expectation. And at some point, they're definitely going to start making shots. And I don't know if you can really find a better situation to make shots than against this Iowa team that can't defend anyone. And they're a better 3-point defense than they are a 2-point defense, but they're not really good in either spot. And I do expect Illinois to, get downhill and score at the rim in this game as well, as they're one of the top 2-point field goal percentage teams in the entire country. And if Iowa has to kind of collapse and, help guard the rim, which they typically have to do at some point throughout a game, or even throw a zone out there, which I think I've seen a little bit more zone from McCaffrey recently since Owen Freeman was ruled out for the season. They've played, I think I've seen like games where they played 10 to 15 possessions of zone. I don't really think that's a good situation against Illinois, who does have capable shooters when they're left open. And overall, this is just basically bottom of the market for this Illinois team. And there's going to be a lot of possessions in this game. So I expect the number to not really come into play. And I do expect Illinois to potentially walk away with a 20-point win.
Yeah, they should be able to get whatever they want. This Iowa defense is bad. Iowa's shown they can keep up with teams sometimes for a half. As we saw against Maryland last weekend. And then in the second half, Maryland just poured it on, basically was scoring every possession, which I wouldn't be surprised to see it all here in this one.
And a very similar dynamic for this Illinois offense. Like, they get all over the offensive glass too, and they have a pretty good front line even without Moroz Johnson. I think Ivicic is a guy that Iowa can't really match up with. And then on the flip side, and don't forget the Kerry Booth minutes. We might see those late. Hopefully Illinois is up 25 before we see those minutes, but I also like how Illinois' defense matches up with Iowa too. They like to stay attached to shooters, and Iowa loves to live out of their catch and shoot game. They have a ton of options, but Illinois and Underwood's scheme and their drop coverage scheme, I think, can give Iowa a bit of a tougher time.
Yeah. The other one tomorrow, we have Louisville -11 at Virginia Tech. Didn't cover the number on the play we'd put out on Saturday, despite being up 14 at halftime against Florida State.
I think it was like 17 at
17.
one point, or 17 at one point in the game.
They ended up winning by 8, I believe, 89-81. So bit unfortunate there, but we're back on them again as a double-digit favorite, this time on the road, playing a pretty poor Virginia Tech team who, I think it was last weekend, they didn't even score 35 points against Boston College.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of that game for Virginia Tech at BC, but it must have been pretty ugly to only score. I think it ended up being 36 on the road, but it was a pretty rough effort. A lot of it is a fate of Virginia Tech, who just doesn't really have any resistance at the rim against a Louisville team that can kind of spread you out and create a lot of driving lanes. And for guys like Terrence Edwards and Chucky Hepburn to be able to get downhill and score at the rim, I think it's something that Virginia Tech can't really defend, and I don't think they'll have an answer for throughout this game. And Louisville's shown that they can cover these sizable numbers against inferior competition all year, just because they win the shot volume battle basically every single game. They're a really good turnover forcing team, and they take care of the ball at a super elite level, and they're really good on the glass on both ends. So, and they'll most likely be able to speed up Virginia Tech, who they like to live from the perimeter on the offensive end, but I think Louisville's going to be able to generate enough stops with their perimeter defense to generate some fast break opportunities in this game. So hopefully they don't throw up a dud from 3, which they have done in the past, but I do like the shot volume battle to be in their favor pretty heavily, and they should be able to break away even on the road.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if Virginia Tech can score enough points to cover the 11, but we'll see. Louisville, as you said, could throw up a dud and shoot 15% from 3, and all that doesn't even matter. So
the only question is the motivational angle. Like, are they really motivated to go play at Virginia Tech? Or, I mean, it feels like they haven't really been going through the motions, but they've been running pretty hot throughout league play, and they have been beating up on inferior competition, but there might just come a time where they get a little bit lazy, or they're sleeping going into this game, and hopefully they don't get punched in the mouth early, because it would make it really tough to cover a double-digit spread on the road. But overall, I'll just trust that Louisville keeps doing what they've been doing and dominating these lesser teams.
Yeah. So those are our only 2 firm plays for right now. We might have a couple more that come out, as I said, so join the Discord in case a few others come out. But we do have a few leans we want to talk over for Wednesday. First one, Arizona State hosting BYU. We discussed this one briefly last night on our general episode, but this is a BYU team that is running hot. So this could be a good sell spot on them traveling at Arizona State. Their offense has been ridiculous, especially this last week. So, Arizona State plus 3.5 is the side we would lean.
Yeah, definitely just a sell spot on this BYU team that, like you said, they've been running extremely hot, especially shooting the ball. And I mean, that's what this team does. They make shots at a super high level. They're really hard to guard. Like, there's no denying that. And Arizona State isn't really the greatest defense out there, but now that they have Jaden Quaintance back, I think that definitely helps them, especially on the defensive end. It's kind of a different story on the offensive end for him.
Hopefully he cut his hair.
Yeah, I don't think he did. I haven't watched since he came back, but I do like the rim protection and their ability to keep up on the glass with BYU, who is pretty good in that area as well. But I like these Arizona State guards to sort of expose this BYU defense that I think has quite a few holes. First off, they can win from the perimeter if BYU is going to pack it in. Like Adam Miller, Josan Sanin, BJ Freeman, Alston Mason. Like, they have a ton of different perimeter weapons that can beat you in the catch and shoot game if you're going to leave them open. And they can break down this defense off the bounce, in my opinion. I think this is a pretty poor matchup for the Cougars defense. So that's basically the reason. But I I really like the number here. I like them. I would have probably bet Arizona State at any number as a dog. This number hasn't officially come out yet. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a little bit higher. Although Arizona State is coming off the win at Kansas State, which I'm not really sure how to evaluate that because, K-State they were missing Coleman Hawkins, but I think they were a little bit fraudulent as well. I think a lot of people bought in a little bit too quickly off of those 6 wins, but nonetheless, good win on the road for Arizona State. And I think they continue it here at home against BYU, who's kind of flying high off of their big week.
Yeah. The Kansas State Kool-Aid was getting drank too much, I think, because
I didn't drink any of it.
There was an article that said Kansas State was one of the top 5 teams that could go on a deep run in March. And I was like, they're not even going to be in March.
No, I mean, it was a nice run that they were on, and they were genuinely like one of the best teams in the country over like a month span. Like if you filtered it, like Torvik has a filter where you can, go to date ranges and it shows like who's been the best team efficiency wise. I think they were like the number 3 team in the entire country if you filtered it just for a 1 month span. But you could do that for any time span for a number of different teams, and you could find a range where the worst team in the league is sitting at 15th in the country. Like it's just
find Cal State Northridge as like a top 5 team at some point.
Good team. I'm not taking any Cal State Northridge slander. I like that team quite a bit. So, but yeah, you could filter it a lot of different ways. And I mean, we could talk like Virginia Tech. Maybe they've had a nice little run. They've probably been in the top 100 at some point, right?
Maybe.
Probably not.
Maybe. Our next lean, Auburn minus 13.5 against Ole Miss. Again, this is another projected number. We'll see what this one actually comes out at, but Ole Miss reeling a little bit here.
Yeah, not sure if I'd bet it at 13.5 or not, but I really like the matchup for Auburn in this game. Watched the entire game when they played at Ole Miss, and I think their offense has all of the answers for this Chris Beard no middle defense. First off, they can still play through the post, even though Ole Miss doubles the post at every touch. And Janai Broome is such a good passer out of those double teams that he can find guys like Baker Mazzara, Denver Jones, and Miles Kelly to hit open threes when they do send 2 at him. Pettiford as well. Yeah. I mean, they just have so many different guys that like you can't send 2 at Janai Broome in this game. But the problem is they kind of have to because they have no size up front. And that's another big angle in this game is Auburn can absolutely smoke Ole Miss on the glass, who is a really bad 2-way rebounding team. Like they can't even get on the offensive glass with their lack of size. And that's really the only spot that you can beat Auburn on the defensive end is I think Auburn's like outside of the top 200 in defensive rebound rate, but you're not going to see Ole Miss expose that in this game. The only area that would be a small concern is the shot making of guys like Padula and Jalen Murray off the bounce against the Auburn drop coverage. But I trust Auburn's defense to hold strong against those guys. And yeah, barring a really big shooting night, I expect Auburn to blow them out.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last one, another lean here. Projected number is +5. Butler +5 against St. John's.
Yeah, we got to be at the peak of the market for St. John's, and there has to be a letdown spot here at some point.
I feel like we've been saying that for a while.
We have. And I mean, I've bet St. John's a little bit through this run. I've also faded them a lot through this run. Feel like I have a decent feel for how St. John's is operating lately, but I do kind of like how Butler matches up. And in the first matchup, I think they were a 13-point dog at St. John's, kept it super tight, and they were actually winning that game. I believe they played that at Carnesecca, but they kept it tight throughout. I think they were leading in the second half, and I like Butler's shot makers to potentially make shots over the top of this Johnny's defense that likes to deny the rim, and they'll give up their share of threes. And I like how Butler can compete on the glass against a St. John's offense that is very reliant in getting on the offensive glass, because we've seen them try to shoot from the perimeter. It's typically not pretty. They did a pretty good job on Sunday against UConn when they were left open. RJ Lewis and Scott had pretty good days, but I think Butler's drop coverage scheme, they'll force him into the mid-range, and St. John's kind of wants to operate there, but I think that's going to really help Butler, stay in position and be able to rebound on the defensive end. So, it'll be a motivational spot against a St. John's team that doesn't have a ton to play for. They have the Big East pretty much locked up at this point, so I'll most likely be taking the 5 points here.
Yeah, no, they do have to have a letdown spot here at some point. So wouldn't be surprised if it's here. But
yeah, I guess we kind of saw it against Villanova, but I don't really know if that was a letdown spot. And, I mean, Villanova shot the crap out of the ball in that game. So
yeah. But that's really it for bets and leans for the next couple of days anyway. Kind of a shorter card for us unless we have more that comes out, which I said will be posted on the Discord on the Action account. Before we wrap things up, want to just throw this question out there: Can Broome contest flag for the Wooden Award, or is that pretty much wrapped up at this point?
I think he definitely can. I mean, if you look at the markets right now, last time I saw it was, I think Broome was what, plus 140, and flag was like minus 185. I don't really know how I would view it at this point. I mean, Flag's been incredible, but maybe it's been because of the competition that he's played throughout entire conference play, playing against the ACC, and Broome's done it against one of the best leagues in the history of college basketball that we've seen, or at least it's the best that I've seen. And he's had Broome had some iffy efforts, like when he came back from that injury. But if I were to vote right now, like if I had a vote, I think I would vote Broome. Although, and I think Flag is the better player. He's the better long-term prospect. Obviously, he's the number one pick, but I don't think it's wrapped up at all. I think my vote would probably be Broome right now, but it's more 50-50.
So do you think there's value on taking that plus 140, or are those odds too short to wager there?
I think the voters are going to lean more towards Flag just because he gets more publicity, and I think a lot of people like to bet just the overall better player, the better prospect. Like we've seen it in the past, like only 3 freshmen have won this award, but it's been like very like iconic players and like the like solidified number one pick in the draft. It was Anthony Davis. Well, KD went number 2, but everyone like kind of viewed him as the best player in the draft at the time. And then Zion Williamson, like 3 like generational prospects. So I do think that's where voters are going to look, is at Flag. And if they continue to keep winning through the ACC and, get through the conference tournament and win it. And I just don't really see how they'll go against him. I haven't really looked into it a ton because I personally have positions on both. I had Broome in the preseason, but overall, I don't think there's a ton of value on Broome plus 140 right now. It was like 350 a week ago. So
yeah, okay, that makes sense. So other than that, we have a couple big slates of games. Tonight's a little bit smaller, but Houston, Texas Tech, which should be a fun one. But the next couple days, bunch of good games. And like I said, keep up with the bets that we might be putting out. We might have some player props as well. So enjoy the games. Good luck on your bets, and we'll talk to you next time.